And you've talked about in F1, things come down to milliseconds. You talked about how there's that tension between operational urgency and strategic foresight. So how or when do you know when to lean into more operational and strategic and vice versa?
I think here's where the if we're talking sort of in a general sense, you have to have a very clear understanding of what the vision is for the company, and that has to cascade through a strategy that is not just the big boss saying that we're going to be the best in 3 years' time, and it's kind of like a vague strategy that kind of like see a bit of a on a wing and a prayer. It's the fact that that strategy has to be conveyed, has to be believable, understandable, achievable, such that everybody who it's conveyed to can understand it, feel part of that journey, feel part of that whole thing. But then all decisions, all objectives has to cascade down from that. And that's one of the things that a lot of companies don't do, is cascade objectives properly. You have a strategy, and if your individual objectives don't have a direct relationship to that strategy at the top, then it's a fairly useless objective, really. It doesn't add anything to it. But then operationally, you have to be slightly careful is what you do. Are the decisions I'm making contributing to that strategy? But also you have your immediate problems now, your medium-term ones, and your long-term strategy ones. So in our case, for example, you constantly have the fight of resources between, next week's race, the mid-season sort of upgrades, and the end of the season sort of this and that. Next year's car, which already started like 10 months before or whatever. And then also what are we doing about 2 years' time when the regulations are changing or whatever? For example, next year we're changing big time regulations, so we've been working on the car for quite a while. But it's constantly that battle to make sure that you don't use all of your resources now and suddenly find yourself that next year's car, you haven't got enough resources to put all the things that you wanted to in that car anyway. And it's not something in this sport. It's not something that you can just say, "Oh, sorry guys, we didn't make it to the first test. Can you just delay that test a little bit?" No, you can't. So it's having the clarity of what resources a plan that's not just 6 months ahead, but it's 3 years ahead, to say, what resources am I going to need over that time? Have I got enough to cover all of that? Have I got the forward thinking? Are we allocating it properly? And in this case, having a good PMO team helps a lot, because then that can give you the whole picture. And if you can align, resources management, the picture against the strategy, then that's always a good place to start.